What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my week two college basketball top 25. Before we get into this week, so we got to talk about my preseason rankings. Here's my preseason 1 through 25. Not a lot is going to change heading into this second week of college basketball. I got to put the two-time defending champs at number one, of course. I mean, I feel like it's only right to keep them up there as they've earned that number one spot. Then after that, it was pretty tough ranking 2 through 10. I think any of those teams could really be kind of anywhere. Obviously Kansas with a big win against North Carolina. We'll talk about that later. But Auburn, same thing, a big win. Purdue already losing one of their key players, the 7'4" center, to the year on a broken tibia. So there's going to be lots of movement here in the next coming weeks. But the others receiving votes: Ole Miss, St. John's, Ohio State, UCF, Wake Forest. Ohio State and UCF big wins over some ranked teams, but I think it's a little early just to knock a team out of the rankings just for one loss this early in college basketball. Now, if they start losing this week, then probably they're going to be falling out. And those teams actually are going to be on this one. It's A&M and Texas Longhorns, two teams in the SEC that got off to some sluggish starts. A&M going on the road and losing by 3. Texas goes out to Vegas and loses to Ohio State by 8. But they did respond well with big blowout victories at home. And obviously those were expected. But then you have 23, 24, and 25 teams that, were there to start the season and they got big wins. And I think, it's going to be kind of the same thing as we get through these few weeks here of where they play the lower end teams. 16 through 20, few teams move up because of those falling. Arkansas is the only team that's moving down here in this one because they lost on the road at Baylor. It's a great game. They just couldn't get it done at the end. Kentucky looks great, scoring 100 plus in each game. Indiana looks good on defense, per usual. Cincinnati, I think, could be a surprise in the American and really give some teams run for their money there. Now with the conference realignment, it's going to look a lot different. Normally it was Houston's conference to dominate, but someone else has to step up now. And then Texas Tech, I think they're a very interesting team out of the Big 12. They're obviously really good every year, but maybe this could be the year where they finally break through and really run the table. 11 through 15, you have Creighton, North Carolina, Baylor, Purdue, and Marquette. Baylor falls out of the top 10 with their loss on the road to Gonzaga by, it felt like a million. But they responded well with a good home win against Arkansas. And I think it really speaks to what Baylor's doing early in the year is they're not afraid to go play the best teams in the country at this point, right off rip. And they now have two easier opponents in Sam Houston, Tarleton State. So they'll probably get to 3-1 here. And it's good to see, where we think teams stand this early in the season, especially with these preseason rankings. Like North Carolina, this team was down 20 plus, but they stormed all the way back, actually took the lead with I think a minute 30 left, and then eventually lost at the kind of at the buzzer to Kansas on the road. And that was a great game as well. But North Carolina looked good this year too. Creighton and Marquette, same thing. Those teams are going to be good out there in the Big East. Then you got Purdue, like I said, they lost their 7'4" freshman center, and that's a big blow to them because obviously they are built around having a tall guy to run the offense and kind of kick the ball out. But they have two good guards in Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer, where I think Purdue will be just fine, especially this early in the season. 6 through 10, not much changes here except Auburn jumping into the top 10, obviously, with their win over Houston. In Houston, it's a huge win there. And obviously, the whole flight that they had to turn around because there was fighting on the plane, so on and so forth. Obviously, that's all behind closed doors. So don't want to speculate. But whatever happened there, maybe it brought them closer together because they went into Houston, got a huge win this early in the season. And I guess if you want to talk about Houston on the other end, it is early and they're joining a new conference. So I think it was a good tell to see where they are. Kelvin Sampson's grew. They always play well at the end of the year. So maybe this is a good tune-up for them early in the year to kind of see where they stand and where they need to fix some things. Tennessee blew out Louisville on the road. I didn't think it would be by that much, as I think they're only favored by 3 or 4, but Tennessee looked great as well. And obviously Arizona and Iowa State blowing out their opponents. In 1 through 5, North Carolina game, like I said, the Kansas North Carolina game. Kansas somehow, someway blew it hugely, but figured out a way to win. And that's huge for them at this point in the season. Now, tomorrow night, well, you'll see this on Tuesday. They actually get Michigan State in the annual classic they always play in every year. Duke gets Kentucky in that, and Cooper Flag looks good. And that's going to be a good game for them. Those question marks are ranked teams yet. Didn't put the AP rankings in yet. But Gonzaga, like I said, destroyed Baylor. So they're staying here at 4. Beat Arizona State, which I think could be a surprising team there out in their conference. What is it? The Big 12 they're in now. Alabama cruising this week. Same with UConn. And I expect kind of another same thing here through for UConn, Gonzaga, and maybe Alabama now, especially with that loss of their center. That's gonna be it for my week 2 college basketball rankings. I'll get more in depth as the season goes on. Obviously, a lot of college football left in the time that there's left, only a few weeks there. NFL's getting tight too. So college basketball's kind of on the back burner here, but once we hit December, January, we're going to have a lot more college basketball content as well. Until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.